welcome everybody to FEI Freight Executive Insights. I'm Mike Vincent. I am not the freight executive with the insights this week or this episode. Well, really all the time. It's my good friend Prasad, Prasad Gollapalli. Listen, if you want insights, he's got them. He's done just about everything. And I'm very proud to call you my very, very good friend for the past, close to 10 years now, Prasad. And I love what you're doing. Thanks so much for coming on the show, brother. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm really doing good. And thank you very much, Mike, for having me here and a warm intro.
Yeah,
As
not,
always, I enjoy chatting with you more than anything else.
well, more than anything ever, I find that hard. Not you're a schmoozer, my friend. I'm glad to see that you're taking care of that hair as always. You have the best haircuts in the industry, my friend. But
I had to
and
get this haircut yesterday just for you.
if you go back and see previous interviews, you'll see where his hair was growing faster than the companies he starts. And let's talk about that, my friend. I mean, you are Mr. Entrepreneur and or close to it in freight and freight technology, and you've built some really cool technologies. Now you're onto something else. Let's hear the story, my friend.
Oh, thanks for the title. I don't know if I'm the Mr. Entrepreneur or not, but I certainly do enjoy entrepreneurship. I love that startup world. You sometimes after you have to be certain years of old, right? Um, I feel like I found my calling, and what I truly enjoy is startups. And as you said, I've recently started a company called Qt. And prior to that, you've known Trucker Tools, and prior to that, I was part of the top leadership team at Get Loaded.
Yeah,
I've been very fortunate to have great exits on the prior ones, and have this opportunity to work in our space.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So, how did you? You're a very smart guy, and you're very obviously tech savvy from what you have built and what you've been around. Why trucking, dude? Why'd you get involved in trucking? Why didn't you do something cool?
Um, Trucking is cool.
Yeah, no,
Trucking
it
is
really is. But I mean, when I started, it wasn't. Back
no,
in the '80s, it wasn't cool. But
no. Everybody thinks trucking is this archaic. People don't change. People don't listen. It's very um, inefficient process, is what people think. But the truth is, supply chain management. Well, you take trucking, which is basically the supply chain management, the overall,
yeah,
is probably by far the most interesting space in the world. And I'll tell you why. We are never going to consume the stuff where it's produced. So you're not eating in the factories. You want everything shipped to your home, but you're not shipping anything back. So it makes it very complex to find efficient routes to deliver stuff to consumers at the end of the day, from manufacturing all the way to consumers. And to add to that, human behavior is probably the most unpredictable thing in this world. You know, um, think about this. After this podcast, you might say, "Well, I'm hungry. I'm going to walk out," and which restaurant you're going to go to is not planned. And
yeah.
every restaurant has to plan for that. The unexpected customer, right? So there are a lot of projections, prediction models, but at the end of the day, it's never 100% certain. And because of that, we're always trying to optimize supply chain, which means
Mm.
there's always room to grow, always room to improve, always big opportunities to work on. And that's what, as a startup guy, I love that because you have opportunities to work on.
Mm. No, that's it's very true. I mean, in my day, I mean, I hate to be the back in the day guy, but back in the day, we didn't have, there was no internet, right? There was no internet. At best, we connected through an AS400 and could send Twix messages through, dot matrix printers. And you hoped somebody tore it down in time and got it to somebody on the dock before a hot shipment or something was left off of a trailer, right? Or whatever it happened to be. I mean, that was it. Or you called the phone and the dock phone rang and rang and rang and rang until somebody happened to walk by, because everybody was just slinging freight across docks is what was happening. And hopefully it got to the right place. I mean, we did a pretty good job, but I found my excitement in those improvements too. And there was a lot of low hanging fruit back in those days, Prasad. And I mean, Roadway was running what they called cross docks, but they really weren't cross docks. I mean, they were cross docks because they weren't warehouses. But there's a drag line running around that moved small pallets and boxes, right? And those got pulled off and put in a bay, and you had people unloading trucks and putting those in a bay or in racks, and then people loading. So it wasn't really true like it came off this trailer, went onto that other trailer. And it was very rectilinear motion. So there's a lot of wasted movement. And I was part of that team that took out those drag lines and created a real, actual rectilinear motion. And then applied, actually, wait a minute, we know what's on a trailer that's coming in, and we know what needs to go on a trailer going out. So we can have dynamic placement at the doors. I mean, these were really, I mean, you're looking, these are like the building blocks of actual efficiencies, right? I was part of the team that got rid of measuring pounds per hour across an LTL dock, because it makes no sense. Pounds per hour is not a productive tool measurement whatsoever. You have to look at efficiencies and all that other kind of thing. Do you see that there is still this blue ocean of opportunity for improvement and growth, like you see in your excitement, or is it finding harder and harder to find those?
No, no, it is still a blue ocean of opportunities. The reason I say that is because supply chain is constantly moving. In that movement, I mean, like you said, back in the day, it was cross dock, right? Just in time production. You People are talking about e-commerce, reverse logistics, right? So we are in the freight business, movement of freight, right? That is ultimately the thing. Technology is an enabler, right? I mean, various kind of technologies come through, whether it was AS400 back in the day or internet, the smartphones. We've really took advantage of the smartphones in my previous venture, right? Now it's AI, smart AI, right? Everybody's talking about it. So there's going to be these waves of technology that come in and meet the ever-changing supply chain, because human needs are constantly changing, and that creates a lot of opportunities, and that widens some of the previous problems, like in my current venture, Cured.
Mm.
It's not when people think about appointment scheduling, it was always done manually, right? Always. You ask anyone in the whole history of the supply chain management, it was primarily done manually, right? Scheduling of appointment. But it's a lot of cumbersome process. When you talk to 3PLs and carriers, it is by far the most expensive line item in their P&L after employee cost. So that's huge opportunity to really innovate, right? So we took this advantage, assembled a team that's smart, and quietly went live with a bunch of top 50 3PLs and carriers. And they're onboarding a lot of these customers and quietly innovating the space, right? You don't have to make a huge splash at these opportunities. You just have to go about the business and just get it done. But these opportunities exist every day. I mean, if one looks deep enough in our supply chain management, right? There's so many of these opportunities. There's so many inefficiencies that we're trying to solve. Um, one of the problems with a lot of innovation is people walk with a solution or a technology and say, "Oh, I got this technology. I need to sell to customers." No, you're
Mm.
not selling technology or solutions there, right? You need to find the problems that are there, right? And people don't spend enough time on the problem than the solution, right?
Mm.
That's usually the reason why people miss on
Mm.
this some of the big
Mm.
opportunities. But
Mm.
there are
Mhm.
numerous opportunities in our space that
Mm.
you know honestly
Yeah.
speaking, I don't think it's one's lifetime is enough to really work on all of these problems. It's
Yeah. So specifically now, let's talk about queued, and it's queued so people understand as in a queue, right? Like you line up in a queue in order to get on a bus, or you line up in a queue at the bank, or you line up a a series of tasks in a queue for your computer to knock out. Just like on an LTL run, an LTL run is basically a queue of deliveries and
Mhm.
pickups, right? And it's dynamic, right? So specifically, what is it doing? What's the problem solving, and who benefits?
So Qt basically solves appointment scheduling for 3PLs and carriers. The way it does
Okay,
is it primarily automates these appointments. 'Cause today, 3PLs and carriers would have to go to many appointment scheduling systems. They have to log in. They have to enter all the purchase order details. They have to pick up, enter the date and time, and all the details of that shipment to get an appointment. Oftentimes, they don't get a confirmation immediately. Then they have to go back again, re-enter all of this information, wait and get that. Sometimes they can't schedule these appointments, until a certain date and time in future.
right,
So they would
right.
have to set their alarms in the middle of the night, which obviously they are doing, right. And so that's how archaic that is. The other bigger problem is, to me, you would have to log into one system for pickup, another system for delivery. People have to use tribal knowledge to see, oh, I need to get the delivery first before I schedule the pickup, because it's harder to get the delivery. Then they
Yeah.
calculate backwards. It's all done manually today, right? So what Qt does is, we basically build pipes between 3PLs and carriers, TMS on one side, with all these appointment scheduling systems on the other side. And we queue up all these appointments in real time. As soon as the customer says, hey, this shipment is ready for being scheduled, we take it. It's a fully automated process. Or people can say, I want to tell you when you want to schedule the appointment. In a fully automated approach, our system is smart enough to figure out how you need a 6 a.m. appointment in Chattanooga for this shipment every Monday morning, right? And it picks that appointment for you. And sometimes people can overwrite. There's a ton of nuances around this that we
Uh-huh.
built in. The best moment I can share with you, Mike, here is, we've been on a demo with one of a large customer, and their team said, oh, I have a bunch of questions for you. And I can see our president, he was doing the demo. He said, just fire up. And they kept asking him, what about this? What about this case? What about this case? They finally said, oh, you guys have thought about a lot. We thought about a lot of cases, a lot of cases. We basically,
And there's a lot of
challenged
cases.
ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you got it, and that's key, right, Prasad? You want to go out there, and I've heard the stories before. You say if you're not embarrassed by your first product, then you probably waited too long. But you've got to beat the hell out of it until you've got an MVP, right? And then
Mhm.
go out there and realize there's going to be tweaks, but you've got to beat it up and break it as many times as you possibly can. And those trials or pilots, those are designed to break, right? You want to test it in the best way possible. It's very interesting to me. Is it towards the enterprise type of solution, or like a one off? Like is a mom and pop carrier gonna run this? A 2-3-1 truck gonna run something like this and find value at it, or is it more towards the bigger fleets, et cetera? And is it just TL?
No, it's it's for all sizes of customers, whether you're a
Yeah.
3PL, large 3PL, top 3PL, or a small, a mom and pop shop, right? Similarly, carriers wise, the largest carrier to the smallest one truck guy can use
Yeah.
this. In terms of the complexity, and truckload, LTL, multi-stop, you name it, right?
Okay.
All kinds
Yeah,
of
that's
freight,
that's
whether
another. The
it's
complexity of LTL is huge. I mean, the parameters to go into an LTL is so much more dynamic than a truckload.
yeah,
Even a milk run across the country is much easier than a local P&D route with 20 stops on it, right?
you're absolutely right. And these stops, they're not easy to schedule because of like you said, the complexities involved in every type of a freight, right? Whether it's LTL or truckload. It's a milk run with multiple stops, or LTL with multiple P&Ds, right? So everything comes with its own nuances. Building a system that can handle all of this is key, right? I mean, thinking about all these nuances. At every point so far, Mike, until this point in history of our industry, this has been done manually. Those
Yeah.
people who are scheduling these appointments know a lot. I mean, you spend an hour with a person, they're like an Indian god with 10 hands. They're doing multiple appointments, they can calculate a lot of things in their head, and I mean, you're amazed, right? But this is an industry, this is a segment of our industry that needs innovation. Because you can only do, as a human, you can only do so many things, and you can't schedule in the middle of the night. You're not going to work around the clock, right?
Yeah.
So it was a foot race until this point,
Yeah.
and we've changed that by fully automating it, but also understanding how the nuances work, right? You got to have enough transit time when you have a multiple stop load, right? Just to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you don't, you're not calling it too close.
Yeah.
And so, because having good appointments change the way these 3PLs and carriers work for two reasons. One, if you have good appointments, if you're selling the load back to a carrier as a 3PL, it won't take you long to sell that carrier to easily, right? Otherwise, let's say you have a load with a 2 a.m. appointment. Not all carriers will jump at that load, right? Now you got a load that's harder to sell. Now you have to bake that cost into it when you bid that load with the shipper. The
Yeah.
second part of it is, um, you know, having good appointments with enough buffer in it and all of it. Uh, Helps your scorecard with your shippers, because your on-time delivery is dictated by it, right? You are better off trying to pick good appointments that you can sell to carriers that keeps your scorecard better. Now, how do you do that? It's an art, right? I mean, it's a science and an art coming together, because you
100%.
have to calculate these things on runtime. There is no better time in history than now, because computer systems have evolved enough. They're using smart intelligence, right? Artificial intelligence, that's probably the most abused word. Anywhere you turn around, they're talking about chat GPT and how AI is going to revolutionize our thing.
Yeah.
But I truly believe this is a problem where that solution fits very well. We're not selling a solution, technology, right? We're solving a problem that's core to our industry, because a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
inefficiencies, whether it's upstream, scorecard with the shippers, or downstream selling to the carriers, and detention time, all of that, they all stem from lack of having better appointments.
100%, and it reaches every part of the industry. It's not a truckload
Mhm.
problem. It's not an LTL problem. It's a cross the board problem, right? That solves it. And I would imagine that so you have to have pretty much the buy-in for the shipper, especially if they've got a automated system that you have to link into, right? I mean, the automation part is what's funny because that creates the gate around the system, right? When they got rid of the phone and said, "Hey, we're automated now," they just made it harder actually because now you've got to get into that system to do it. But you've got to have that buy-in in there. And I guess the part of the sale is that they get better service too, right? I mean, the harder it is to make an appointment, the easier it is to just wait until you have that shipment in time to do it and then call, right? So you could be 3-4 days late, still be on time because you made the appointment within the window, but it's still 3 days longer transit or a day longer transit or something like that, right?
You're right. You're right, Mike, on that. So, most of these shippers, like say, when you talk about the big ones like Walmart,
Yeah,
and others, they have their own scheduling systems, right?
yeah,
Um, but most of them also use third-party scheduling systems nowadays. Whether it's
sure,
Manhattan, One Network, all these big systems out there. Uh, Retalix is another big one for
yeah,
refrigerated freight, right? Um, so all these systems have their own way of doing business. Right? Connecting with them, it's not an easy task,
yeah,
and a lot of them are still trying to figure out how to build APIs. So us being the leader and the front runner in this space now, we've basically built these relationships with these guys, helping them, you know, build their APIs. We, oftentimes seeing our business or our approach and solving this problem, they have said, well, but, I mean, you guys are doing a good job. Why can't you be our face to the world and connect with our system and create these APIs? Obviously, there's this scheduling consortium that's trying to come up with standards. That's no news, right? I mean, we've discussed this with many vendors out there. The
Yeah.
scheduling consortium is coming up with an approach which everyone could take, but the reality is not everyone will take that path, right? You're a appointment scheduling system. Your first question is, why should I come, adhere to someone else's standard? I'm going to come up with my own standards, right? Because you want to build APIs that work for your system, not for others.
Right.
So a third party platform like Qt is a needed one in this space for that reason, because you're sitting between two legacy systems, whether it's TMSs or appointment scheduling systems, and you can just merge them like this, right? You need somebody who can talk to each and build these bridges on both sides. And two, it also takes away, this is not a revenue generator for appointment scheduling systems in most cases. Shippers don't care because they're being sold on other solutions from them, not just this connectivity. And for 3PLs and brokers, it is a cost that they have to deal with. Now, what we're doing is we're eliminating the cost for them, helping them be better. And eventually, we have the ability. We've been in business for a very short period. In this short period, we've got a bunch of a good number of top 50 3PLs and carriers already onboarded. Just looking at the data, we already see a value in helping upstream shippers
Mm.
down the line on their inefficiencies, right? How do we help them improve their efficiencies at the dock?
Yeah, because you can take that queuing system, the intelligence of the queuing system from on you really got three parties. You got a trucker, you got a 3PL, and then you got the shipper carrier, right? Because the appointment could be on a shipment or a delivery, right? on either side, you got to have an appointment most of the time, unless it's a daily check, which then is also an appointment as well, even with those logistics, right? Especially in LTL, that's like a daily check. It happens all the time, so that's another appointment. So the system is basically it's an integrated appointment enabler, right? Between two different systems making this happen. So that's quite complex because you're going to be looking at the shipper side or the consignee side and queuing this delivery according to their best parameters and the carrier's best parameters to put it together, right? I'm assuming that's correct, right?
That's absolutely right. So, what's available on the appointment scheduling side, and then what's the best appointment for this particular 3PL or a carrier on that particular lane, right?
Right.
So, our system can basically, this is where the complexity comes in, right? When you are handling, I would say, tens of thousands of appointments at the same time, you're basically looking at each one as a preference, right? What's good for you in Chattanooga on a Monday morning may not be good for me, the same location, Chattanooga on a Monday morning, right? I might
Right.
be doing a different lane than you are, and things could change, right? So using that personal preferences and the personal best, right? We have to set up this and get the best appointment for that customer.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we can fall within a tolerance level. If it's not 6 a.m., it's 7 p.m. is better, right? Understanding that is extremely important. um, until this point, no one has ever challenged. Um, if I'm, let's say, you are an appointment scheduling person at a 3PL, large 3PL or a carrier,
Yeah.
and you train me, and you say, Prasad, on a Monday morning in Chattanooga, will you pick 6 a.m. appointment? I will never question you why, because you have done this job for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
I'm
Exactly.
your apprentice, and I'll say, yeah, I'm doing this. A couple of years later, someone says, well, Prasad, why are you doing this? Because that's what I was told to do, and this is the best appointment. No one ever questions that, right? It's all done because we have been doing that. Now,
Yeah.
if you look at the data, sometimes 6 a.m. is not better than better appointment. It's actually 8 a.m. that reduces the detention. So the
Yeah.
system can look at this, connect the dots, and say, "Well, Prasad, I know you've been traditionally looking at 6 a.m., but let me help you with this at a 8 a.m. appointment, which reduces your detention time."
Now
So it
listen
could.
to me. Listen to me, Prasad. If it actually came on and talked to me like that, I'm buying it all day long.
You know what we did. So short of actually having the system talk to you, another biggest thing, Mike, we've chatted this on our private, previous podcasts, that
Mhm.
a software should always be adapting to a user behavior, and user
Yeah.
behavior should not change for a software. Right? That has always been the key.
Yeah.
Right? So only those companies succeed. Now, what we did was we basically connect these things. Now, if you automatically schedule appointments, people are like, okay, I see my load, it's going into queued, it's coming back. Is it truly scheduling this appointment? Right? They have this
Ah,
question. So, what
yeah.
we did was we built a portal that clearly shows them everything that we have done step by step.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. They got to
So,
trust the process.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And, I'm very proud to say this in this short period, our adoption, customer or user adoption, is over 95%.
Wow, that's
Meaning, if
fantastic.
there are 100 stops that we could schedule, 95 of them are actually coming to us.
That's
What that
fantastic.
tells us is it's easy, they trust the process. But more importantly, we're actually scheduling those appointments. Otherwise, they wouldn't use us.
Yeah, if they were using you and then they got there and there's no appointment, of course they're not going to schedule 95. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then on that same note, I'll give you another number. 100% of the appointments that come to us that we could schedule, we're scheduled. And not even
Nice.
99.9, it's 100%. And someone recently said, just
Okay, so let's be clear. Of the 100 that could be scheduled, 95 of them were given to queued. Of those 95, 100% were successful.
absolutely, absolutely.
Gotcha. All right, those are important numbers for people. Okay, let me ask you one last question because we're and I could talk to you for hours, brother. But
Yes.
let me ask you this: does it or are you? And maybe you don't want to answer. Maybe I'm going to give you a great idea. I don't know. Maybe it's stupid, but can the consignee, if they're integrated through this and they know their carriers are coming in, what carriers and what shipments are coming in and what those identification codes are, whether it's a pro number, an LTA, or a bill of lading number, whatever it happens to be. If they understand this, can they tell the system if there's conflicts, here's the priority to go through?
Absolutely. So that's what the rescheduling process is, right? So
Ah,
so if in some way we're talking about what's coming right now down the pipe
yeah,
for us, and
yeah.
so I'm going to just we live in the fast-paced world. By the time we finish this podcast, our team's already working on this part is reschedules, not just a manual reschedule or if or a user initiated reschedule right now, where a 3PL or a carrier can say, well, I need to reschedule this appointment. That can be done, right? But more importantly, what we're also looking at is at the runtime, if a particular shipment is behind schedule, going back and looking at what's available for that shipment at a later time and taking that appointment time. We've already built most of it, and we're currently working on releasing that part. It should come out end of Q2 or early Q3.
Fantastic, fantastic, Prasad. I love it, my friend. Where are people going to go? And where you're still on LinkedIn, bro? So where are people hooking up with you, and where are people going to find out more about Qt, my friend?
It's Qt.com, Qued.com. And when you go there, we try to keep the website very bland. We don't want our competition to know what we're doing, uh, as always, right? But if you reach out from through our website, we have a very good team, amazing team that takes care of your needs. Where we don't rush into trying to sell you a solution quickly. We want to understand your process. We want to see how we fit into it, show you this is how it works, and we have an amazing track record of successful customers. We even have some case studies already in the short period.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Prasad. Hey, I love it, brother. Let's stay in touch. I wish you all the success. And if you don't mind, tell Tom Curie I said, hey.
I will. He should be on this show with you.
I'll get him on.
Amazing.
Tell him to give me. I'll hit him up, but tell him he needs to come on the show. And I want his guitar. We'll do a duet or something. It'll be great. Or if you want to come on, we'll do a trio. We'll
Yeah,
have
absolutely will do. And thank you very much for this opportunity, Mike. As always, I enjoy chatting with you.
Thank you so much, Prasad. Peace and love, my friend.
Same here, brother. Take care.